So this is a first. Another first. There's lots of firsts. We have many firsts. In this one, we are outside of self-help graphics and art here in East Los Angeles.
Yes, Boyle Heights, East LA, yes.
Boyle Heights, East LA. And inside right now, we've got quite the scene.
Yeah. First off, I want to thank you guys for having me on. I know you guys are doing your thing, and I appreciate it. And yes, what's going on inside is our second annual self-defense, all women self-defense class that we organized. The first one we did was at Legacy in LA here in near the General Hospital, and over 100 women showed up. And the thing is that jiu-jitsu is very underrepresented in this community, and in a lot of ways it was a reaction to some attacks that happened towards women here, and two women that got murdered. And a couple of us, me and Rio in the Ghetto Dojo, which is our kind of informal jiu-jitsu club, we hooked up with this other program called the Warriors Jiu-Jitsu program. They're a straight up donation based jiu-jitsu program, so anybody can just like go up in there and learn. So we hooked up with them, and we were like, we got to do something. The jiu-jitsu community's got to do something. So we started organizing this all women's self-defense course. And this second one's really special because we got Eve Torres Gracie and Rener Gracie in there teaching the class, and it's just a huge culmination of all this effort,
Yeah. So I feel like before we even get to that, we can't sort of sell yourself short here. You're a name yourself, a pretty big name. You're the sax player for a very well-known Grammy Award-winning band, Azamatli.
Yeah.
This is Ulises Bella. You're a native of, are you East Los Angeles as well?
No, I actually grew up in Southeast, a little bit in between here and Long Beach. And I started in the band. The band is now 21 years old. It's crazy. The band is old enough to drink and have an adult beverage.
Yeah.
And we've, through our years, we've been able to travel to over 40-something countries. We got a couple Grammys under our belt, a Latin Grammy, and we've always been about giving back to the community too, as a band, And around, I want to say, during the recording of our second record is when I personally got into jiu-jitsu. A friend of mine who, I don't know if you know this other hip-hop group called the Dilated Peoples.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Raka from the Dilated Peoples was at the academy, at the Gracie Academy, and he was like, I was kind of like on the tip, like, I want to learn something new, man. I know this music thing, and I've dedicated my life to it. I kind of want to get into something else. And he was like, yo, man, go to the Gracie Academy, take a lesson, free lesson, And at first, personally, I was a little bit like hesitant, just because I didn't know if, you have all these like things that, am I tough enough? Are they gonna beat me up? And it might be a little too crazy for me. Then I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, shit, that's like saying no to a guitar lesson from Jimi Hendrix. It's like, fuck if you know guitar. Dude, the guys want to teach you. It's like, okay, and I was just thinking about it, and then I was like, I'm going to go. And I started with this gentleman named John Burke, who was a Hoist guy. At the time, when I started, the academy was still on Carson, and Hoist was still teaching the group classes, man.
It's awesome.
It was a real golden era, and I remember like the old man Elio coming up and doing seminars, and me just being completely like, how people are when they first get into jiu-jitsu. You become obsessed.
Oh, absolutely.
You just, I wonder if I can do this all the time. And through the years, I've always kept at it, even though, of course, through touring the world and the country, sometimes the intensity of the frequency of training sometimes, can hurt, like, I want to train, but I can't. Did
you train at any of these countries you traveled to?
Not really. It was mostly different states.
Okay.
Like if I knew somebody who I could hook up with and go and I can, because sometimes the gi does take a lot of room in the bag.
And you got to wash it.
Yeah, and you got to wash it, man.
How many gis do you think we have in that truck right now? I have 2.
I have 2.
You have 2.
Right.
And I'm sure Dave has at least 2.
Right,
Because
right.
Dave's the collection guy.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I actually had a pretty good gi collection. It's not really a collection. They accumulate because
Yes.
I mean, you started in the mid '90s, right?
Yeah. It was actually 98, 99. I started.
So
2000 maybe.
it was the dark ages of the UFC, but jiu-jitsu was still on the upswing. If you lived in this area
Right.
in the United States, this is when you had the Gracie on every corner, basically.
Yeah. And yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the one cool thing about, I guess, Southern California is that, I mean, if you want to find a place to train, you can find a place to train, and there's a lot of amazing professors and really competent academies around there, man.
Yeah, I feel like with the down south, you guys have a lot of good jiu-jitsu gyms. It's like the mecca of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Up north, I feel like it's a little bit more MMA based.
Right.
There's still some good jiu-jitsu gyms, but down here for sure,
Right.
you guys have the Mendez brothers, Andre Galvao, which is in San Diego, all the Gracies,
All the Gracies.
Gracie Academy,
Eddie
Torrance,
Bravo,
10 Planet.
Shout out to of course, the Gracie Academy where I go, and then Orlando Sanchez here in Pasadena, and it's just a lot of guys, man. Just amazing. Checkmat, you name it, man. They're just it's on. And me personally, I've always been about like screw the politics. I love to train with people from all kinds of academies,
Absolutely.
and all kinds of schools, and it personally has made my jiu-jitsu better doing that,
Absolutely. We've come sort of under the philosophy, kind of train with everyone. We're under the Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu banner, but honestly, we go around with the podcast. We meet people from all over, all different kinds of gyms, and we take jiu-jitsu as a whole and sort of the benefits that come along with it. And the politics are definitely not the part that we're in for.
For sure.
We just want to meet people and train and see what sort of things it brings to their lives, because just you can see for us, we're in Los Angeles right now. We've got Rener Gracie and Eve Torres right behind us in here right now. We're sitting here with you. So I mean, jiu-jitsu has given us the opportunity to do this and the passion to, right? So and for so many people, it's like this entire lifestyle, right? Not just Brazil, not just California, but all over the world. It's opening people's minds and lives to just a whole new world.
And if there's a community of people that, for the most part, are somewhat consistently pretty cool peeps, it's the jiu-jitsu community, and it's like that's what another guy that definitely kind of inspired like just the vibe too is like when we met Chris Hodder too, like. Man, that guy from Combat Base, one of the original Dirty Dozen guys, first non-Brazilians to get black belt. His vibe is so cool and inspired us to keep doing our thing, our little clubs and stuff. So definitely the community itself, it's really, really down-to-earth people, and I love it.
Yeah, that's the best part about jiu-jitsu is going to other gyms and training and networking and hanging out and eating good food, but
Right.
Like right after rolling, but certain people, certain gyms, and that's what the politics comes in. People actually don't want you to do that. They want you to wear this certain color of a gi. You have to be this certain belt to wear this. It's like, it's
I mean, some of that's understandable. People obviously want to, protect their academy, protect their students, keep their students. It's all understandable. But I mean, just personally, how I feel about it, I just love training with everybody, and thankfully my professors, whether it's the guy I train with, Alex Stewart, who's a professor at the Academy 2, or Hinner, Hedon, Halleck, any of these guys, they never were like, yo, you shouldn't be over there doing that. Never, man.
I honestly feel like when you train with somebody new from a new gym, you learn a different style. You learn maybe a submission or an attack or an escape you wouldn't have known. And you get so much better if you just keep it inside. If you don't allow yourself to grow, you don't allow your students to experience that. It's like you bring them to a competition, they shouldn't be surprised.
Right.
I mean, sure, there's YouTube now, so it means sort of every door is wide open.
Totally.
You can sit there and there's breakdowns and you can study things.
It's amazing the vast knowledge that's on there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It used to be one of our first instructors used to say, for the beginning students, stay off of YouTube Jiu-Jitsu, but now it's crazy. The instructionals online, the Gracie online, the Gracie Academy online.
Right.
It's impressive whether you're into the online learning or not. It's impressive the amount of techniques they put together and put on there.
They really and kudos. I mean, there was some kind of like, I guess, criticism about certain things about the university, but I have to give these cats kudos because they're always on top of it, man. They're always thinking about how to progress the jiu-jitsu thing. And now with between Hiron and Hickson and Pedro all coming together to really work out all the kinks of the university, I think it's just going to be amazing. And to be honest with you, it's like if you're in the middle of nowhere and there isn't a jiu-jitsu place for you and your buddies, it's like, man, that's a great resource,
Well, another thing is too is I'm gonna just relate this to my brother. My brother is 5'3" and he weighs 130 pounds, like wet. But our first instructor was Bobby Southworth, and I don't know if you're familiar with Bobby Southworth. He was on the Ultimate Fighter 1 winner, but he's like 6'4", 260.
Oh wow!
They're gonna have two different games,
right?
So if you have the YouTube, my brother can look up people his size, and seeing how they are, and so I mean it's good to expand and grow.
Sure.
Well, I mean, with the online learning or with anything, man, the pioneer is going to take the first arrow, and so by the Gracie Academy coming out and creating that and putting it out there first and being the first one to market with it, of course there's going to be criticism because it's going to be received the way anything is when it first...
Anything new, any kind of new media or any way to devolve the information, for sure. But hey, it's all love, I mean, for me, it's like,
absolutely.
And they're not the only ones doing it too. Everybody has their own online thing going on now too, so it's all good.
Marcelo Garcia's is, I think, if you go to his gym, he'll roll with you, but it's on video. It's streaming all the time. Like we have the Facebook streaming when we do the podcast on Facebook. There, Clean Cash Podcast. Well, cheap plug for our own stuff. It's if you go into the academy, it's going to be streaming, and then another one which is pretty rich in content is the Mendez Bros you mentioned.
The Art of Jiu-Jitsu. What a great facility too.
Yeah,
like they're just
so beautiful.
Yeah. Those dudes are nuts.
The Apple Store clean white gis and mats and everything.
It looks like an Apple Store. It does. The gray walls.
You're in the Apple Store. You go in there and man, I feel like I have a suntan. No, it's just that everything's crispy white. It's like if your gi starts to fade off white, do they take you aside? And, hey man.
I don't know. Do they? Hand you a little bleach. I don't know.
It's not white enough.
But let's talk about the music. So how'd you get into that?
Music.
You said you
always
played
been
saxophone.
Yeah, music has always been in my family. My dad was a classical violinist, but he immigrated he was in Spain, France, Italy, and then went to Canada, and then came here. Met my mom right down the street at the Grand Central Market, and I popped out here in LA, right? And the music was always around the house. Classical music from Spain, music from Mexico, and as a little kid, obviously, I was like, I want to play electric guitar, man. That's what's up. And of course, that's what I wanted, My dad actually was like, you know what? You got to start piano, classical piano. And it's the base of everything. And obviously, at that point, I was bummed out about it. But he was completely right. And from classical piano, I went to classical clarinet and then started studying saxophone. And then... from saxophone, I started kind of having fun with the guitar. It was, in high school, I was obviously very much into like a lot of punk rock, a lot of jazz and just all kinds of music. I went to the High School for the Arts here in LA, which is a very famous school for music and arts. And so I mean, music and art has always been around me, and I'm just really, really happy that I'm able to just put beans on the table, still doing it, man. It's like being a musician and a working artist, it is difficult, especially if you don't have that something to hold on to, and I have the band and we have each other, and we've been able to work out certain things as far as the band's concerned that have been able to make us last this long. One of the things, obviously, like most bands, because most bands last maybe 3 years, 4 years, do a couple albums
without the lineup changes or
whatever,
the whole thing changing.
And a lot of the times is that obviously money and ego are two of the things that kill bands, and the money thing is interesting because from the jump when we started, we were always about dividing the pie equally, even if it was like 12 motherfuckers, it's like, you're not going to get a lot, but we all got our thing equal. And even with the songwriting, we worked it out that we should all be equal. And I think in a lot of ways, we had this kind of thing where we had to have each other's back as a collective. We even started a baby fund, like for people who just had babies. Like we would put in money in this pot. That way, if they needed it, we provided ourselves health care, dental care. So our idea was just like always like, this is our company, this is our band, this is our whatevers, and we got to just have each other's back.
So you said you had classical music playing around the house, and I don't know how accurate this is, but they say that classical music for like babies, and you said your father played classical music.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a sign of like intelligence and supposed to make the kids a lot smarter. And
Well, they say that, right? Like you're supposed to play.
Seems like you're pretty smart. You got all these fundraisers going on,
maybe.
helping out.
I don't know. I guess that's a I don't know. They say like playing Mozart and stuff for for babies and stuff will definitely like help.
Yeah.
I know that there's a certain appreciation for classical music that it works your brain, and for sure, and it's like a lot of crazy parts, and whether it be Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, you name it,
Well, it's made you modest as well, at least at bare minimum, right?
I gotta ask you, do you listen to hip hop at all?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up in LA, it was a huge influence on us, on me particularly, like 5th grade, like 6th grade. It's like, I mean, of course, there was the whole pop-in, lock-in, break-in thing that was huge here. And everybody, so that whole hip-hop electro thing was huge, and I was always into that. And then, of course, all those classic albums, whether, Raising Hell, Run DMC, Bad, LL Cool J, Radio, all those albums were like on rotation constantly on the tape, obviously, listening to it on the bus, Beastie Boys, you name it. All the local dudes like, Ice-T was big here, Ronnie O. So yeah, hip hop is definitely a big influence in my musical upbringing for sure.
And I had to relate with like the classical and the jazz and the hip hop. Did you ever listen to Diggable Planets at all?
Oh, of course, yeah. The Diggable Planets first and second record. I love the second record too, man. A Blowout Comb is amazing.
That's my favorite.
Yeah,
group.
that's a great band, and I dug, especially because at that point I was super into jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And that their whole thing about connecting that, keeping that tradition of from the bebop to the this to the that and there's a definite connection.
Yeah.
So, of you guys, did you guys come up together? Did you guys know each other since you were kids? Like, how did it work out?
So, interestingly enough, what it was is that at the time there was another community center.
Okay.
And it was called the Peace and Justice Center at the time. And what it was is that. Oh, dang! These airplanes are flying low, huh?
Very low. That was fireworks a second ago?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're for the listeners out there. We're right here in LA, and you hear the fireworks going on because it's like that for like a month before 4th of July. It just keeps going.
Look at this. We got a mural. When you're in East LA, you got to do it East LA style. Like we do studios, man.
Yeah, we're hooked up in the parking lot. The weather is amazing right now to do this. But we're behind this beautiful mural, bunch of artists. It's amazing.
Like if you're in East LA, you do it East LA style. We've all been to studios. You clearly work in studios, man.
Yeah.
But no, we're
studio tan, all pale. You know what I mean?
So you guys came up like.
So the Peace and Justice Center. What happened is that. They were part of the Conservation Corps. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, California Conservation Corps. It was like post-riots LA, they were trying to give a lot of at-risk youth jobs. So like painting over graffiti, planting trees, cleaning trash. Now, this friend of mine, Anton, who was our original drummer, and Will Dog, our bass player now, they were part of this like team of 30 workers that were doing like earthquake preparedness plays in elementary school. Now, it was all gravy and it was great, and then there was this huge labor dispute between Conservation Corps and the workers. So as a form of protest, they basically like did a sit-in at this spot. There's this huge building right here off of 4th and Bixel in downtown LA. Now, because of the the kind of bad press and just like it was not a very good look for the Conservation Corps. They mediated this thing where you guys lose your jobs, but you guys can keep this building for the rest of the lease and use it for whatever you want and whatever's. So they renamed it the Peace and Justice Center, and it turned into this like kind of this like mecca of art, like for downtown. Like there wasn't that much going on, and there was a cafe in there. A lot of great bands came out of there. Graffiti, they had skateboard ramps, you name it. So every weekend, to raise money for this center, musicians started just calling each other, hey man, you want to play for the Peace and Justice Center, you know, and Ozo Motley's first gig was basically to help the center out, you know. And for the first year, I want to say, because all of us were in different bands or doing different things, but all of us kind of came together for this cause. And from our first gig, I remember like first rehearsal was like Cut Chemists on the turntables, and we were like, what are we gonna do? What kind of music are we gonna do? And we just realized that we wanted to make music that made people move, you know, and dance and have a good time. And right from the first gig, it set off. It was like, oh man, this is something. Like honestly, like a lot of us in the band didn't think that this was gonna be the band that made it, you know, and it totally did.
Wow.
It's almost like you've been sort of working on improving the community since the jump, since day one. The purpose was for you guys to get together, and you know you're working in one of these centers and you know doing music for them. But so as friends and as bandmates, I noticed a lot of your music has sort of a ska kind of riff to it. Like you have the Latino sound to it. You have the hip hop sound. Does each band member sort of, are you guys all into the different types of music, or is there a ska guy, or is there like a...
I think you're right in the sense, everybody loves everything, but you're right in the sense that every guy kind of came from a little bit of a different tradition.
Right.
Like one guy was super like, Azure was super like salsa merengue guy.
I can hear it in there,
like he
for
was
sure.
like, that's the guy. And I remember obviously Charlie Tuna and Cut Chemist Lucas, they were the hip hop. You know, they brought the hip hop. Now, all of us, like Will Dog, he was a big reggae guy. Me, myself, at the time, I was super into, I being a horn player, it's like you do the ska thing, you know? So I was in a band called Yeska before this, and we were deep in the ska scene here, where we were opening up for like the Scotalites, Selector, you name it, the Toasters, anybody ska bands that were coming out here, we were playing with them. And so that definitely... different people brought different flavors. Jiro, who's our drummer now, he had studied classical Indian music at Cal Arts.
Wow.
Like, that was his fucking thing. So it was like crazy, you know, like all these flavors. So when we kind of came together, it's almost like we put a fucking ad in the paper, like, we need this, we need that. But it was very organic. Very, very organic.
How long would these tours last?
Well, when we first started, like, man, we were on the road like 8 months out of the year. Damn. Like, because one of our first major tours was the Warped Tour, which is a national tour.
I skated in that thing.
Yeah.
In 97,
no
96.
Way.
Yeah.
Dude, you must have been on it the year right before we went on it, because we were on it, I want to say, 98.
I used to go to the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, New Jersey every year.
Dude, okay. Were you at the one, I think the Specials were on the Warped Tour that year when we were on it.
So the big ska thing was when the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones had like their day.
Okay.
And so they were on one of the main stages, and that was kind of the big ska thing that year.
Because I remember the Jersey Shore with the Specials that year with the Warped Tour, and I remember because they did Ghost Town for the first time for the whole tour, and I think that it was like a really crazy thing, you know, like that was our first big kind of thing. Right after that, it was like Lenny Kravitz. We did a whole national tour with them. And then the big one that really kind of set it off for us, that was like, this is made for Ozo Motley. It was like, somehow Carlos Santana's son, Salvador, got a hold of our album, showed it to Dad. Dad dug the shit out of it and was like, I want to get these guys to open up for us. So he got us to open up for him in Anaheim, at the Anaheim Pond. And it was immediate, like kind of like, he's our godfather, musical godfather in a lot of ways, because he kind of set the tone for mixing it up, all these different sounds. And immediately it was like, we're gonna do national tour with Santana. It was like Santana, Mana, and us. It was like amazing. And we did different tours with Santana. Got to record on his record. We were playing with him every night on stage with him. So that was like one of the tours that really like all of a sudden kind of catapulted us into like another level.
So you said in the beginning the tours were longer.
Yeah.
And then later on they just became shorter.
Well, what it was is that we'd just be on the road and playing for the sake of playing almost. Like we got to be just like dispense the Ozo Motley gospel almost like everybody. And then, you know, obviously through the years, you know, people have had their kids, have families, you know, and just don't want to live in a 15p van, you know. You know.
Yeah, it seems like that's how it is. I was thinking it was more like you start off in the beginning, you're doing these shows and you're grinding, and then as you grow and it's like, all right, this is how much we're going to get paid. This is the show, and it becomes less and less. I guess not as much shows, pretty much.
No, I mean, if we want to keep we could totally jump in a van right now, and just be out. You know, would we be at each other's throats after 2 weeks? Probably. You know, just because of like we don't have that kind of like stamina like back to, like of course if there's a big tour and it's all worth it and everyone's gonna be on board, you know, like the road dog in me is never gonna die, you know.
So question I had in regards to the tour stuff, in the 90s, the 2000s, it was record sales, Grammy Award winning artist.
Right.
I mean, you know, the album sales were where it was at, but I feel like now with digital media, like how has the transition been, like with your career in music, with the digital sales, the music, you know, YouTube and the you know, when obviously Napster had its thing and then it changed everything. Yeah. Is it tours now, merchandise? Like
it is definitely, look, if we weren't such a great band live, we would not be existing. And I'm just saying that just because it's like when that paradigm shift happened into the downloading thing and piracy and whatever, for me, I wasn't that bummed about it because I was just like, anybody wants to listen to music, I'm down. But it essentially dismantled the music industry, you know. You know, I mean, not that it was something to be saved because it's always been kind of crooked ever since it started. I mean, the artist has always been at the bottom of the totem, but the money's wise as far as like selling music, who the fuck is buying music? You know, here and there, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, I'm an old schooler. I'll still go to the damn record store and buy stuff, you know, but the way deals are given out and set up comparatively to when we started, we were kind of at the tail end of the golden era, man, where like here we are, a band, you know, that is not obviously has a mainstream sound. Our first label gave us close to $500,000. Like, here you go, record a record, live off of this, buy whatever you need, and pay it off with record sales. Now that's just like
that's gone.
That's gone. Like what this idea that some kids might still have, like, I'm gonna get the crazy record deal. I mean, if you do get the crazy record deal, guess what? They own your ass. They basically own you.
That's know? Prince, right? Prince had to change his name because he couldn't get out of his contract.
He couldn't get out of his contract, so he changed his name. That way he could just still work. And that dude was a genius. I mean, not just musically, but also like when that whole flip of like who's buying music and whatever. I don't know if you remember. Prince did this move where, you know, there's this thing called SoundScan that basically measures who buys and, you know, sells music. Prince did this thing where it was like if you bought a ticket to his concert, you bought the record too. So it counted as a sale of a SoundScan.
That's very cool.
And it fucked everybody up because people were like, what? You know, this guy's just selling records like this, you know, and he did it. And and it worked for him. I don't think you can pull that off anymore like the way he did it, you know?
Yeah, we were actually talking about with Dave about records because we were staying in West Hollywood, and we saw Capitol Records, and he was like, "Oh, you know how many famous people came in here, how many musicians, how many actors, actresses, you know." But I mean, did you hear about what Jay-Z did and how he started
Tidal and all that? Yes, and that's all a reaction to the streaming services basically not giving what I feel would be justifiable payment for using their content constantly. I mean, what Spotify and what Pandora and all these other streaming
iTunes or
services,
something?
yeah. iTunes is a little better. I think they're trying to, because they did the Apple Beats now.
Well, they do Apple Beats, but they have Apple Music, which is a similar, I think, thing
Right.
to Spotify. So, like, you have to figure out, like, if your music's going in this direction, you know, it's this payment plan. But, like, if they're paying $9.99 a month, they're getting unlimited. Now you're looking at Spotify money, so it's weird.
Right. So that's always been a thing, and I'm sure you've seen those articles where it's like, really famous artist gets $1.37 check from Spotify, you know, like for 1 million run, you know, like plays. It happens, and I don't know. That's one thing for sure that they got to figure out, I think, in this progression of what, because now at this point the ship is sunk, you know, the rats have left. There's got to be a new way of how to deal with this.
So I kind of hope that it would usher in kind of the end of, like, the corporate rock, of, like,
Right.
just the stuff they try to spoon feed you on the radio, that you'd start hearing the music that the people want to play, the people want
Right.
to, and not necessarily the creeds or the whatever else that they put on, because I can't even do FM radio anymore.
Oh yeah, and radio as what it is way different from what it used to be, and you know, it's crazy. We had a flash moment in Ozo Motley history where we were the morning show for like a big radio station here in LA for like a fucking month, and then they fired us like completely, like laters. But it was funny because it opened my eyes, because we've never been like a big radio band. Yeah, certain stations would play us, but it really opened my eyes to how that industry worked and how in certain ways it's really, really cold. But the idea of, like, let's say, like the DJ being the tastemaker, like there was that era where, like, whether it was Wolfman Jack or Rodney on the Rock here in LA, or you name it, just like Alan Freed, where it was like, oh, these guys, like, they're playing this record because they dig it and they're presenting it to the world because they have amazing tastes. Well, pretty much all music that's played on the radio is not actually even picked by humans. Almost, it's picked by a computer.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, that's why in certain stations it feels like they fucking play the same song like on the hour all the time. You know, it's like, how many times can I hear Don't Stop Believing? Like, it's gonna play, man, you know. And not to knock them, because I love that song, I mean, I love that band, but I'm just saying, like, that's the kind of the mentality. And like, we had this radio show, and it's like, there'd be times where I'm like, hey man, can I play this music? Can I play this song? It's like, nah.
It's all this sampling, marketing, data, and this
Yeah.
the same type of technology that goes into them figuring out what kind of coupons to give you at Safeway or Walmart.
Right.
It's this data-driven analytics type stuff.
Totally.
And that's what they're using to basically figure out what to put on the radio.
Totally.
It's the same sort of algorithms they're using. They sample. They collect every bit of data
Everything,
you can
man.
imagine. And then there's some crazy data science physicist that's like, I'm going to work on coming up with what the model is for what people should listen to on the radio that helps sell X, Y, or Z product.
Right.
And they'll they model it around that. They want to get the sponsor stuff out there, and
For sure.
they know per market what to do and who likes what and who buys what, and they can influence it too.
The shit's down to a science.
It absolutely is.
And that's and you know, and that's the thing. Like, if you're gonna look and discover for new music and something that's gonna blow your mind, it's like, yeah, don't fucking listen to commercial radio. Like, fucking, I mean, yeah, not to say that I want to play one or two songs, it's great, but I'm just saying, like, there's so much more now, and especially with YouTube and especially with all these other things, man. Like, the resources is from when I was super young trying to learn things. It's like now it's like some obscure band from wherever. It's like, yeah, you can look it up and it's there and it's right there and it's amazing.
Go to shows.
Yep, go to
Go to
shows.
shows. Live
Definitely.
music is the best thing ever.
And that's really to go full circle, and that's really why we've survived. You can't can that shit.
Yes.
That, you know, yeah, you can stream a fucking festival, but you're not going to get the same energy, the same vibe of being at the show next to everybody, feeling the energy and the music. And that's really what has kept us alive, and I think music alive.
I only bought a few albums in my life, and that's because I went to a show and I was like, oh, these guys are actually good in the show and their album is good.
Right.
Not just, oh, the album is good and then you go to the show and they suck. And you're like,
Yeah.
this is horrible.
Yeah, like when you go and see live music and you get in nice and close and you're part of it, you feel like you're part of it and you feel it. There's only a handful of albums, honestly, that I can honestly say that when I listen to them all the way through, I feel anything out of it.
Right.
There are special ones,
Of course.
but the difference is when you go see something live, you make that connection, you're in it. There's that energy of the people around you. and it's a special thing. People should go to shows.
And it's a gathering of your peoples, you know, in a lot of ways. It's even like when, like, whether it was ska, punk, it was like always like, we're all gathered here because we love this music and this scene, and all of a sudden it kind of it's that unity and that connection, you know.
Have you the last show I went to was Alabama Shakes. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, great band.
So beautiful.
Yeah, they're smoking and they're doing really well, and I'm really happy for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's an amazing front woman, you know, that whole shit and the songs and just the vibe of it. I dig it.
Yeah, I was they performed at UC Berkeley. And they killed the show. Everybody was clapping at the end. It was beautiful.
Good band. Yeah. I dig them.
Robert Glasper. Robert Glasper, I feel like, was another person that is pretty good. I went to his live show. I ended up buying the album right there. I was like, I'm just
iTunes and that's the thing, you know. It's like you're at the show. I mean, me, when I see shows, like, I'll buy a shirt, I'll buy the record, just because it's like I want to support. You know, that's really what it comes down to. It's direct money into the band and supporting them and their music.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I got how many just random concert T-shirts. I think I wore a Slayer shirt that to the Kurt Osiander interview.
You did?
I was wearing, and I bought it just a few months earlier. My brother wanted to go see Slayer. I was going to see Slayer.
I mean, and Slayer is from my neighborhood, like my area, like some of those guys grew up in Huntington Park. And I know a good friend of mine is friends with Dave Lombardo, and just like, I mean, that band definitely was huge in this scene, and here in LA, I was like, man, they fucking changed shit.
They're still going.
They're still going, and they still sound great, you know. And I mean, True Dave doesn't play with them anymore. I think it's Paul again on the drums, but even the records where Paul recorded, I think, like God Hates Us All and stuff like that. Man, fucking records are awesome, man.
That CD was great. We went to the Warfield concert. They did a DVD, and my brother's in like the fan section. They interviewed him with his shirt off. He's, you know, this big 250-pound white dude yelling,
Slayer! Yeah, man, this shit's bomb.
He went on a rant about Kerry King, and they come on, we got to get this guy on camera. Just being silly.
Right.
Do you listen to any other music?
Oh yeah, everything, man. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I kind of not that super deep into is like country music. I mean, I love Johnny Cash and I love you know, certain dudes like that, but I'm just not that deep into, like, I'm not listening to whatever the.
But you appreciate it.
Of course, you know. But I'm super, you know, metal, punk. I grew up with that stuff, you know. I still listen to all that stuff to this day, you know, whether it's, you know, always, and especially with things like metal, you're always like, what's the latest shit? You know, what are the kids into now? What's the darkest shit, you know? Like, who's the band that you can't even decipher their logo, you know? Like,
it's kind of funny. You mentioned punk, and there's one band, and I actually see you guys as being like, and not as almost a parallel, not in terms of styles, but like, so Operation Ivy, for example.
Oh yeah.
They were kind of the first kind of punk band to say, like, they were going to take the second wave ska stuff and bring it in there, and the music that came after that, it kind of changed music
totally.
And even some of the stuff that you guys do, it has the punk, it has the hip hop, it has the ska riffs, and it's like with bands like that they're able to bridge those gaps. But then you guys came along and you brought in sort of the Latino element, brought in the salsa element, you brought in the rock, the ska, the hip hop, everything else, and it's like music today, the pop music top 40 has elements of all of those things, and like I see you guys as being one of those bands that was like a transition band, like a band that, like, after this music could do this and it was okay, and you could meld these scenes together, and the unity thing became more of a thing that was, you know, before it was very tribal.
Yeah, and you got to think, it was always genres, and even like I remember when we first started, because we had this song called Cumbia de los Muertos. Everyone loved the song. It's one of kind of like our kind of like underground hits. It's like kind of big in South America.
Dance of the Dead, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like the lyrics are actually very kind of kind of biographical in the sense where Asju's brother was tragically murdered in a gang kind of thing, and the song itself is based on this idea of the Day of the Dead, where his brother's spirit comes back and is dancing with his mom, and it's kind of really kind of poetic and this and that. But anyway, the song itself is great, and I remember back in the day it was like English stations were like, nah, we can't fuck with that because it's in Spanish. And then I remember even Spanish stations were like, the rap in English, it's not gonna fly. And then now it's like you can hear all that stuff like you were mentioning, you know, like, yeah, like Spanish, English on a commercial radio, it's not a big deal as much as it used to be, and this mixing of sounds isn't as a big deal as it used to be, and it's the future in a lot of ways. It's always going to be a mixture of stuff.
You feel like Santana's kind of big comeback in the 2000s really sort of ushered in a little bit of that?
Yeah, in certain ways, you know, he's like one of the pioneers of that vibe of mixing it up. But another band that I think was hugely influential in our evolution as Ozomatli and as musicians was a band called Fishbone here in LA.
Oh yeah.
So Fishbone, you know, sometimes we've even said like, if it wasn't for Fishbone, Ozomatli would have never existed. And I've said that to Angelo and Norwood to their faces, like, man, if it wasn't for you fucking guys, we wouldn't have been here. They were like one of those bands for their moment in time that no one could fuck with them in LA. Everyone was like, oh yeah, the Chili's are great, yeah, Jane's Addiction's awesome, yeah, but the fucking Fishbone, man, you know, like they were like the top kind of, you know.
They had a totally unique sound, and they still have a pretty crazy following.
Yeah, like they're still amazing live. Yeah.
Cool. So, Cash, you're a big hip hop fan. I mean, like, so Diggable Planets, that's your thing. Like, that's your number one.
Yeah, actually, my first fight ever, I came out to the song Where I'm From.
Oh yeah.
That's my favorite song.
I think they're playing again.
Yeah, they're actually playing in coming up north in August. So I told my buddies, I was like, hey, we should get tickets to that.
I think I met Butterfly in Seattle. I think one of those guys was living up there, and I was kind of starstruck. And but you know, as they say, the '90s is like the golden era of hip hop. You know, and
some of it sucked.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, you know, there's always like that thing, you know, and. But I haven't bought like there hasn't, you know, there is some newer hip hop that I've kind of bought here and there, but there hasn't been like anything where I'm like, oh my God, this is really rocking my world. And whatever, you know, I mean, sometimes certain genres are a little bit in stagnation, but then there'll be someone new that comes out and just busts it out again, you know?
Yeah. What kind of hip hop artists do you listen to now, or that you're into that's modern, I guess?
I like Run the Jewels, like that record's I really dug that record. I'm trying to Tyler was pretty big out here in LA for a little bit, like where everyone was kind of like, he's like the weird guy.
Oh, the creator.
Tyler, the Creator. Yeah.
You like him, Cash?
Yeah.
I like his videos.
Yeah, his videos, and his
cool.
quirkiness. I dug that.
He's a skateboarder too, so I like that.
It's just like different, you know. It's just I dig it that it's different, because at a certain point, it's like, how many videos can you have that looks like the fucking same, you know, or the subject matter where it's kind of like my car, my money, my you know, my chicks, my that, you know. It's like So there'll always be, and that's one things that I will say about hip hop is that it globally, internationally, is one of the biggest things ever, and sometimes we don't realize it.
Yes.
Like, I've been to places around the world where I'm like, there's a hip hop band here. Like I remember one time we were in Burma, in Myanmar, whatever you want to call it, and we were playing in Rangoon, and the thing is that at that time when we played there in that city, it was still under the control of the military junta. So to have a congregation of more than 3-4 people was considered illegal. So we had to do a show at, like, basically almost like on the embassy grounds on the basketball courts, and they had this hip hop group from Burma opening up for us, dude. And the guy was talking to us, and he was totally, of course, like, yo, man, the Source and all this other stuff.
Wow.
And I remember, like, asking him, like, how far do you live from here, bro? And he's like, oh, about like 3-4 boroughs away. I'm like, boroughs? Like, wow, that's how deep, like, the hip hop culture, the lingo, the just everything about it is just, that's how deep it is. And You name the country, there's probably a hip hop group up in there. You know?
Sweden has hip hop.
Sweden has hip hop.
That Fataru.
You name it, Russia, you name it, everywhere. Like when we were in South Africa, like amazing hip hop scene out there too. It was very impressive because they were doing like we had to film this one guy that I forgot the name of the language, but it involved like the clicks. You know, and he was rhyming with the clicks and everything. It was just amazing, man. And
that's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Wow.
I wish
like what was that movie? The Gods Are Crazy, or was that? Remember that? Did you ever see that movie? It's kind of old. Anyway,
Who's in it?
It's kind of like a bunch of nobodies, but the premise of the story is like it's this bushman, and this bottle comes down from a helicopter, hits him in the head, and he thinks it's like God gave him this bottle.
All right.
probably thrown off the airplane.
The gods must be crazy.
I'm into obscure movies and stuff.
Like,
what I just watched the other day, the Where the Buffalo Roam with the Bill Murray. It was the same one as what is it? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a Hunter S. Thompson movie.
Yes, where Bill Murray plays Hunter. Yes, I remember
yes.
that. Yes.
And,
Yeah, that's a good one.
So you mentioned your friend earlier, and we haven't really talked about your gym. So you're with a place called Ghetto Dojo.
Oh yeah, well Ghetto. Ghetto Dojo kind of evolved out of a friend of my friend Rio. He was working out with this guy named Justin, who was a hardcore judo guy, and they kind of would do these workouts every every so often. And it was always like judo, like Justin just like completely going bananas on Rio, like like. And unfortunately, and he was a great guy, but unfortunately he tragically passed in a car accident. And then Rio at the time was like hitting me up about jiu-jitsu, like, hey man, I want to get into it. And I was just always like, man, I'm on the road, I'm busy, man. It's like finally I was like, let's get some shitty mats and just put them in the garage, and we'll just go through some things. Little by little, it just started turning into this thing where we were always hooking up, hanging out, training together. And the reason why we call it Ghetto Dojo is not because we're tough, it's because we had shitty stuff to start with. Like we just had shitty mats. We had like everything, duct taping everything. And little by little, we started realizing that other guys would want to be involved. And the whole Gracie Garage thing was turned into an inspiration too. And little by little, different guys, Rocco started coming through. Halleck came by one time. A buddy of mine, Christian, who's a Machado black belt. All these guys started coming in. My friend Steve, another purple belt guy. And we just realized that it just started turning into like a club, kind of like buddies who like to roll and then have some beers and a good lunch after.
That's what it's all about.
And then it turned into this thing where it was like, hey, let's make some shirts, let's do this. Then we realized that just having a little club and doing whatever's, it wasn't enough. So we just started kind of reaching out to other jiu-jitsu people and doing things like this event today.
I gotta ask you, do you follow up with MMA at all, or?
Do I follow it?
Yeah, just watch it.
Yeah. I'm not like if I miss the fight, I'm gonna bum out. And if I miss the fight. But I definitely love watching MMA. And
you gonna watch next week's fight?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I want to.
It's a big card.
I know. And then I believe on the 17th is the new Metamoris that's going to be happening.
It's soon, but they're having EBI, I think, in San Francisco.
And the EBI is the day right before. Right,
we're supposed to have one up near us. Aren't
yeah,
we?
We're gonna have one they're gonna have one in San Francisco.
I think the next one of my buddies, amazing jiu-jitsu guy from San Diego, Sergio Fernandez, is he's rolling. He's going to be competing at it. So, yeah, I love any kind of all that stuff. MMA, you name it, even the ghetto-y ones, man. I'll watch them on TV, whatever.
There's an all-women's MMA. They're doing a women's amateur state championship this Saturday. Chris Cyborg, I think, is co-promoting it.
Really?
So we're supposed to meet her at the weigh-in tomorrow.
Oh, that's right.
She's going to come chat with us a little bit, and I don't know for how long, but we'll be at the weigh-in, and then we'll be at the fights the following day.
Oh, that's cool.
So they're doing the first ever, I guess, all-women's card, and they're going to do amateur championships for the women.
The only thing I can say about about MMA is just like, I wish cats got paid more. Really,
Of course.
that's really like my thing with when I see these guys. The amount of training, the amount of dedication, the how much you invest your fucking blood and your soul into it, and then not getting what they truly, I feel, financially deserve, monetarily deserve, that could bum me out sometimes.
That's like the story of our podcast. We interview a bunch of MMA fighters. We've interviewed Frank Shamrock. We've talked about that. Andre Fiallo, who's a Bellator fighter. He got a contract, but he says how broke he is, And
Yeah.
But the thing is, too, being up north, I mean, there's obviously like expensive places to live in the LA area, but up north, it's like pretty much in the Silicon Valley, everywhere is expensive, and it's like the mecca, I feel like, for MMA gyms. We have AKA, you go up north a little bit, you have Gilbert's gym, you go up north a little bit more, you got Team Alpha Male, you go to the right a little bit, you got 209 and the Diaz brothers. That area is a little bit cheaper, not as expensive, but it's still a tough place to live, and especially in that sport where you're making $800, hopefully you make $1,000 a fight, because unless you get a big contract, but it's hard. I mean, it's definitely a difficult sport to try to make a lot of money.
Hey,
here we have Rener
special
Gracie
guest here, Rener Gracie,
and
man right here
doing some very cool things today, huh?
I'm really, really happy that just thank you.
Got a chair if you'd like to sit down for a
This
moment.
is easy work for us. This is our passion.
I know, and I'm just psyched that he came through and did.
Do you want to sit here? There's a mic and everything.
Yeah, well, it's lit up over there. We'll move the mic over there.
Sit right here.
Whatever.
Yeah, we'll get the next.
Here, I'll just scoot over.
In the mic right here?
Yeah, let's bring that over to you.
Okay, yeah.
The lights over there. It's a little better.
All right.
We could just share the mic.
I'm good on the mic right here, you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
need headphones. I know what's up. Just manage my levels and you're good to go.
Yep. It's not your first rodeo.
No way. How did it go in there?
Dude, good energy, man. I love the community here. I love this community. Okay, are we live? Let me know when we're live.
We are live.
Yeah, we're live.
We've been live.
Yeah.
I came in on a live show.
He doesn't
Yeah.
need headphones. He said
No,
he
for
doesn't
real
know.
though, it's live stream?
Yeah.
It's live streaming.
People are
Facebook,
listening live?
right there.
Yes.
Shoot, man, I gotta take back what I said right there. You guys are a real production, man. What's up? This is my wife Eve right here, you guys. Just killed it in there with an amazing seminar here in Boyle Heights, California. And congratulations to Uli and the Warriors Club, Ghetto Dojo, all you guys, man. This is really special. Like, this is not a normal situation going on out here. It's very unusual for them to have the community classes that they have here. It's really cool. So keep up the good work.
And the thing is that I initially I reached out to Eve, and I was like, hey, Eve, and then Eve just was like, Rener's gonna be coming too. I was like, oh, it's on now.
Yeah.
I was like, it's on now.
I made sure I was like, hey, Rener, do you know any good bad guys I could bring for Thursday's seminar? Like, who should I bring? I always do that. I'm like, should I bring, Alex Weta? Or like, I'm like bringing up all these other instructors who's like, okay, I'm free. I'm like, yes.
I'll go get beat up by you in front of the girls.
And these guys have such a great rapport with each other and just energy amongst as a couple that I think it just resonates in the room, and it just, you could just, I was peeking my head in there, and I mean I've known Rener forever, and I've known you kind of separately, but just watching you guys right now, it's just like, making the vibrations, man. It's
Cool,
just really
guys.
amazing.
So, you guys have any questions for us? Are there any? How should we carry this on right now?
Absolutely. You guys blew up a little bit. Well, you guys already have a huge presence online, but the Facebook video, which we were talking about earlier, 50 million views, right?
Crazy.
That was in the car, and it was in response to a Uber incident, right? And you're kind of here today to show some women's self-defense stuff. I only saw this come online, the ad that this was happening about a week ago, and this turnout's amazing. So could you tell the listeners a little bit about what's going on tonight?
Yeah. So, well, just in response to that Uber video, that's really what we try to do, is we try to educate the masses, right? We love to teach these seminars, but then you're only reaching 100 people that day. So, that's why we make these videos, and we love when they obviously go viral, because that means, it means that people want to know this information, right? People are out there saying, this is cool, I want to learn, and that's a good sign. But B, it's also because we know that we're sharing this important information as well. And so The Uber video was one where there was an incident where a woman was attacked by or somebody who posed as an Uber driver, and so we just talked about some safety tips regarding Uber, and then we showed some really dope chokes that you can do in a car. So we try to switch it up, change it where we have some that are kind of more just principles of self-defense, but also some techniques to go with them because they're fun and they actually work.
And that was dope. Like, I've never done jiu-jitsu in the back seat of a car. Like, I want to know, and like having a wife now and knowing that these ride-sharing services are so common, the frequency with which people are getting into cars with absolute strangers,
Yeah.
just trusting a random Honda Accord, and you just see a little sticker on it and you get in and trust that they're going to take you where you're supposed to go. The frequency is now ridiculous. So it just felt timely, and the viral nature of the video, 50 million views in 2 weeks, is a sign that it's true. People are feeling that same level of this is crazy. And it was funny because we were shooting it at the Gracie Academy there, near the front area, and random people were just walking by on their way to 7-Eleven, and I'm in the back seat trying to strangle Eve, and she's like putting me in triangle chokes. They're like, wait, what's going on? But there's a camera there, so it's a production.
Actually,
but
it's
still
more
crazy.
like normal day at the Gracie Academy. Rener and Eve choking.
So anyways,
each other.
we're glad it went viral, but just to be clear, that video was not only to talk about the ride-sharing services, but to promote a free seminar that we're teaching July 16th at the Gracie Academy in Torrance. We do these twice a year, and that one's gonna be July 16th. We're having hundreds of inquiries from that video, and we'd love to see more people show up, and we're just gonna try to fit everyone in and make it a huge party, because it's crazy that women don't typically, this is a jiu-jitsu podcast, right?
Yeah.
What is it,
Yeah.
MMA, jiu-jitsu?
Everything.
Jiu-jitsu.
But it's more a martial arts podcast,
Yeah.
and majority men listening to this,
Yeah.
and a lot of men who wonder why their wives aren't all excited about jiu-jitsu like
Every
they
man,
are.
how do I get
Every
my
man
wife to
wonders
train?
that. Why doesn't my wife do jiu-jitsu with me?
Yeah.
And why isn't she stoked? And like, why does she get mad when I come home late from class? She should be training herself. Well, women don't just naturally venture into jiu-jitsu academies because the natural experience at a regular BJJ school is not pleasant for women, let alone any new student, man or women. It's suffer in the
Scary.
beginning. So what we've realized over the last 20 years is that when you make a program and you make a women empowered program and something that is specifically for women, exclusively for women, they feel like they're being spoken to, not at. So they come in looking for this program for them, but what inevitably happens? They do the techniques, they love it, they fall in love with the same thing that we all love. Then they go, man, this is cool with women, but I want to see if this works on a man. So they go to a co-ed beginner class, Gracie Combatives. They do that class, they go, wow, this is much more challenging, but I love it because now I have the confidence. So the Upstart program for women in jiu-jitsu academies is terrible around the world. We feel like we've cracked the code on it, and doing these kickoff seminars like this one here, like the one in Torrance on the 16th of July, is how we get women in the door, and once they experience it, they can never unexperience it. It's just too amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I noticed we have a lot more women. So I started almost 12 years ago, and I think in the entire county, we're so up in the Bay Area, there were maybe like 1 or 2 women, and purple belt, blue belt, someone's girlfriend would come in, then leave because of what you just described. There's so many more that are there, but it's one will come in per year, stay a little while, and it is.
That's how it was
less
when
than
I started
10%,
too.
right?
Yeah, when even at the academy, which is still like it's still relatively inviting,
And
to
beginner-friendly and really good
friendly.
structure.
But even there, when I started, 8.5, almost 9 years ago, I would be one.
Out of
There
40
would be
people, yeah,
there would be
50.
maybe one other woman in a class, whether it was beginners or
Now we have
the advanced
half.
classes.
We have a group class of 60 people, 30 women.
It's
I've
tremendous.
gone into
Co-ed. It's unheard of. It doesn't exist.
Jiu-jitsu class, and we're talking 20,
Co-ed, a
25
regular
women
beginner.
out of it's insane. So
And then we
it's
have
really
women
exciting.
only. So we have Women Empowered that Eve and I teach every week, twice a week. Women's only self-defense, Women Empowered.
Based in jiu-jitsu,
That have
yeah.
between 35 and 60 women in a class every week, twice a week.
It's really amazing, and not just women, but getting into jiu-jitsu, as you mentioned earlier, can be scary. You jump in, and it's deep water, and I think the majority of gyms haven't really cracked the code of how do you handle bringing new students in.
No.
How do you get them
exactly
in?
it.
It's
Yeah.
deep water. As soon as you jump in, a lot of schools don't have beginners courses, or they do have them, and they never stop really training with the beginners courses because they don't label it as a fundamentals class. You don't get advanced students in there, and you really do need advanced students to work with.
crazy.
You need students of every level, every size, and there should be deliberate things that are worked on with those different types of people. That doesn't happen in most gyms. It's deep waters. You're going to get in. You're going to get tough or die.
Yes,
and
you
then you're just
survive
gonna
or
bail.
die.
Yeah.
You either survive the first 6 months and you're in it, or you don't, and you quit. And not only do you quit, that academy, but you quit the jiu-jitsu spirit. You
Totally.
leave, what do you think? Jiu-jitsu's not for me. It's for savage beasts of society, and I'm not one of them.
And the
so
worst part about that is that those are the people who need jiu-jitsu the most. The ones who are
can't
quitting
survive
because they
it?
didn't hang in the first however many
Exactly.
months. Those are the people who need it the most. So it's pretty
So we
upsetting.
feel, as the Gracie Academy as an organization, and now with over 120 certified training centers that we've literally personally certified that teach exactly the way we do, we feel that we've cracked the code on the perfect path of a jiu-jitsu student. From the very first 10-minute intro, we call it, to black belt, we have a path that is so calm and so progressive. And I was talking to Hickson, who we've been doing a lot of work with lately, and partnering for the preservation of self-defense and the fighting system of jiu-jitsu. Talking to Hickson, I said, Hickson, the difference is, I feel like every other most BJJ academies are like a rocket ship that is projecting to go to space or to the moon, let's just say. They set it up vertically, 3, 2, 1, blast off, those rockets kick. The amount of people that can handle the G's and the pressure of that escalation and the speed of that increase there are very few. Whereas the Gracie Academy, it's like we make it, instead of vertical, we're putting them on a big 747 Boeing jet. And then you pile all your friends inside, and the takeoff is so that we can fly, but we can fly more gradually together. And we can still end up at the same place, but you gotta have that gradual takeoff so that the G's don't scare the world away. And we've cracked that code, man. And because my grandfather said it before he left us. He said, Rener, you don't do everything you can to make sure jiu-jitsu continues being available and accessible to the people who actually need it. And that's it. It's all we've done our whole lives.
Here you guys are today at Self-Help Graphics. That's exactly what it is. It's you guys are spreading awareness, and you're making people realize that jiu-jitsu doesn't have to be deep water. It doesn't have to be prohibitive, and you can get into it, and you're giving them the tools. It's awesome that you guys are
my
out
biggest
there.
fear is that the women who, if they don't train with the Warrior Women Self-Defense, that after this seminar today that they just went in, they're all excited and wow, this is beautiful, this is great, this is empowering. My worst fear is that they're going to find a jiu-jitsu school and it's not going to be what they're expecting, right? And that's what's so sad.
It
is
ruins the journey.
There are so many women who come, is there school in this state? Is there school here? Is there? And I say, yeah, there probably are, but you don't always know what you're going to get. And so, it's it's just a shame that there are so many schools that are missing the boat on how to get more students, how to get more women, and to get especially these demographics that really need jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for new students, the initial introduction to jiu-jitsu is critical. So for us, we train, we meet people, we do their podcasts, we do this, but we've been training for years and years. So it's like, great, we're going to learn new techniques. It's not like we're brand new white belts going in and just getting mollywopped or whatever,
Crazy.
learning bad techniques or just being taken advantage of. Like, oh, you're from a different school, and some gyms are very territorial.
Totally.
And
It's so bad, you guys, the upstart in jiu-jitsu right now. The beginning journey for jiu-jitsu students around the world, generally speaking, 95% of schools is so bad that, man, people go in there and the culture has now become one of guys who survived. You guys survived, you survived. You didn't have, you started with us, but people who survived that tough upbringing where they died for their blue belt, died and got smashed for a year and a half. People who survived that, there's almost like, what do they call it in the colleges when the hazing?
Hazing,
The
yeah.
culture of so now that you've passed it, what do you feel? Heck yeah, that's how it should be. And if you can't hang, you don't deserve. So it's been like that for so long, so wrong now, that the culture is, jiu-jitsu is not for everyone. And if you can't hang, hey, go be a punk in your own house. You can't hang with us. And my grandfather, if he knew that that's what it's become, he would be so sad, because here he is, the guy who actually can't survive the hazing and the craziness, and what made jiu-jitsu what it is, for him as a weak person, and now to know that it's fallen in strong hands, and those strong hands have made strong cultures, that you gotta be tough to survive, it literally went backwards, and now it's back to this, what do they call the Karate Kid, the bad dojo?
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai. Now it's
Cobra
gotten
Kai.
to that point where most schools are Cobra Kai now, and there's just this energy of, only the tough survive, and it's not for everyone. You got to hang to be tough, and if you can't hang, you don't deserve jiu-jitsu. No, it's the opposite.
I remember my first trip to Brazil. I was married to a Brazilian woman for 9 years. And my first trip was in 2000.
That was your first mistake.
What not,
Dude. No, I'm kidding. We love Brazilian women.
The family there, the in-laws, they had a bad idea of what jiu-jitsu was. They thought it was they would go and bring their students to clubs and start fights, because before the UFC and before basically jiu-jitsu got popular here, then went back to Brazil, there was kind of a dark time period when jiu-jitsu wasn't looked at it that favorably in the country.
Not it wasn't that it was
like,
not favorable. Jiu-jitsu became synonymous with thuggery,
bullying,
and straight up, because there was high-profile incidences of jiu-jitsu teams and clubs going and conducting crimes with jiu-jitsu. It fell into the wrong hands, got a terrible reputation, and if you said you practiced jiu-jitsu, it was labeled immediately, straight up. You're a thug. So it was very bad in Brazil because the UFC became this mainstream sport, and it includes jiu-jitsu, and it kind of put it in a professional light. It's rebuilding it over there, and it's becoming something more common and acceptable for all of society to practice. But it was really bad, really dark for a period of time there, for a good couple, 10 or 20 years. But it's good to see that it's coming out of that, because it is a good thing that fell into bad hands. Well, it's like a weapon, right? It's like a gun. Gun's good or bad? Well, it depends who's carrying it. So
Absolutely.
That's kind of what happened with jiu-jitsu there.
I had a question. At your academy, do you guys train with everybody, or is it just like you only roll with a certain amount of people?
No. So at our academy, like the instructors are deeply ingrained in the culture there, and I spar with everyone from blues to purples to brown to blacks to professional guys who visit. Like there's no, for us, there's no ego. It's just a matter of learning, getting better, and man, I can make training with any belt a challenge. Yeah. Right? I'll spar with the blue belt, I'll tie one or two hands, and now you have a brown or a black belt right in front of you. Do you feel me? Yeah. So there's no judgment there. And not only that, we film the sparrings with all these belt levels, and we put them on GracieUniversity.com, and we narrate them. So you see me sparring with a blue, a purple, a brown, a black, an MMA fighter, one hand, no hand, tie hand, blindfold, chokes, arm bars, triangles, all types of sparrings. We diversify, and we include everybody.
Talking about those dojos or those gyms that kind of put a bad rap for jiu-jitsu is, I've traveled and trained at a few gyms, but I remember a lot of these instructors wouldn't train with somebody, or it was like kind of disrespectful to be like, "Hey, could I get a roll in?"
We can't ask.
Yeah, you can't ask. It's
right.
like, and that kind of, kills it a little bit, because some people live by the motto like train with everyone, sure. And then you want to go and train with everybody, and then no one trains with you. That kind of sucks. So I was wondering if you guys do.
No, our culture is very open. We train with visitors all the time. You guys are invited to go down there. Just make sure you let go when I tap out.
Clear.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys coming out and doing this, and of course that was a rocking seminar.
Yeah,
we had no idea.
Super fun.
Yeah.
I knew Ulises would be here. He mentioned that you would. I had no idea you were going to be here, and I had no idea with something you put online a week ago you're going to have this many people.
I didn't have no idea Rener was going to be here.
To be honest, I didn't know until this morning.
Eve told me that,
I was like, I might be bringing Rener.
And I was like, oh,
the
that's
bad guy.
Amazing. That's amazing. And one thing that, just to touch on the need and everything like that, is that I remember the first one we did with Alex is like we did this little survey.
Right.
And the level of people who had said, women that said that they had really negative experiences with assault, rape, you name it, it made me just realize how much this particular community needed this. So for you guys to come through today, it just means a lot. And for all the people out there in interwebs, I want to thank Eve and Rener. And of course, I started with the Gracie Academy, and I've always represented the Gracie Academy, but this is just another level right now. Yeah.
Thanks for inviting us. We love to be able to give back to the community in whatever way we can, especially with, as you said, communities that experience violence against women more, much more. And we know that jiu-jitsu is, or any training of self-defense is like a way of, it's the first step of healing, I think, through from some of those incidents in people's lives, and for survivors of, either violence or sexual assault. Mm-hmm. So we are all for it.
And to our friends out there who are men who are watching this podcast, who love this podcast, who are in love with jiu-jitsu, right? Like we are all here, who are just totally perplexed by the fact that your wife cannot fall in love with jiu-jitsu. I have an idea for you guys.
Stop trying collar chokes on her.
Here's the deal. Number one, stop inviting her. Stop encouraging. Here's the deal. If she says, honey, I'm thought about this jiu-jitsu thing, and I'm open to go try a BJJ class, you should say, honey, no, do not go. Save yourself. Because if she goes and does a BJJ class, she's not going to enjoy the 99% chance she'll hate it. Okay? She'll get bruised, trapped.
Unless she's like really down for it. If she's like all excited and down, and
which is very likely. She's most likely she's going to hate the BJJ class.
But if you're pulling teeth to try to get her to try one, then send her to us.
So if she says she wants to try it, go have her watch one. Go watch one. If it looks appealing to you, we'll think about it. But here's the better solution. go to GracieUniversity.com, go to our website, the Women Empowered program, in which Eve and I and my brother Hidon teach the women empowered techniques that women actually resonate and understand and need to learn for self-defense, for what relates to them. Show them some moves that make sense to them. Everyone resonates with what speaks to them and what makes sense to them. So for a lady to come to class and learn the newest De La Riva sweep has no connection to her life. Do you understand? So she's gonna quit and never want to do that again because the bruises weren't worth the De La Riva. But if you go home and say, honey, I've accessed these techniques on Gracie University, the Women Empowered, Rener and Eve, watch this with me, just watch this video. And then you guys watch it together, and then she goes, wow, they're good teachers, and those moves make sense for my life. I need to know how to break free from a wrist grab. No one should be able to hold me by the wrist and I not be able to get out. I would like to know that. Well, honey, if you want, I can grab your wrist gently right now and we can try this together, and there's the beginning of a jiu-jitsu journey. And then what happens? 15 lessons go down real quickly after a month or two, and she says, wow, that was fun. Is there any more? Well, actually, now we go either Gracie Combatives on GU or go to the school and now maybe learn a little bit, little by little you venture in, you guys. The point is, there's a gradual way to do this that is successful, that people are doing all over the world. And if you want your wife to fall in love with jiu-jitsu so she doesn't get so upset when you come home late because she loves what you love and she's going to be more forgiving, if that's what you want, go online, check it out. And if you're not the happiest customer of those lessons, then I'll have Eve choke me out for you guys for free.
Yeah, I actually like dating jiu-jitsu girls a lot more than kickboxing girls because I just get weird looks when we go out and they have a bruise on their face.
You get the look.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah,
if it's
so
jiu-jitsu versus there's no bruising in jiu-jitsu, so you're good. You know,
Well,
people like chokes, arm bars, are kind of low key.
If you have matching ears, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah,
to go down, right?
ears give it away 100%.
Exactly. Well, guys, it's been a real pleasure. It's an honor to come out here and be a part of this. I mean, what you guys are doing is beautiful. It's needed. And thanks a lot, Ulises Bella from Motley.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for putting this on. Thanks for... I mean, this is unique. We usually use studios, but this is awesome.
Self-help graphics,
you're
the Warriors Jiu-Jitsu program, Gracie Academy. It just all came together in a really
beautiful
way.
night.
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Guys.
Guys, good stuff.
Clint Cash podcast.
Thank you to Eve and Rener Gracie, first couple of jiu-jitsu. Thank you for everything you guys are doing. Follow them online. I'm sure Eve Gracie, Rener Gracie,
Something
all
like
that
that.
stuff.
You'll find us. You guys
Gracie
know how to find
Academy. You guys got millions of followers. It's your followers watching us right now, not the other way around. So thank you for coming. And
Facebook Live. Is that Facebook live stream?
yep.
That's what's up. I need to learn how to do that. Thank you guys.
Whew.
Man.
Tão natural quanto a luz do dia, mas que preguiça boa, me deixa aqui à toa. Hoje ninguém vai.